And I'm not sure if Melissa's going to be joining us today or not. So, like I said, welcome, welcome. So excited to have you guys here. Thank you for recording, whoever hit the record button. That's why I love my teammates, right? They had my back. They were going, we got to get this recorded and up onto our virtual training session. So just so you know, all of this is being recorded. You can watch it later if you only have a 30-minute lunch period, although I try to keep my presentations pretty brief. You can catch the rest of it on our YouTube channel. And thank you very much, everyone, for coming in with your microphones muted. Today's presentation is by Premier Pet Supply. They are a local company here in Michigan and in this Metro Detroit area, and they do offer a discount to puppy raisers. So we're very happy to have them. We're very happy to have them participate in supporting our program. So if you have a chance, stop by Premier Pet Supply and pick up some stuff. And here we're going to talk about separation. So I want you guys to think about times when you may have been separated from your puppy and what that picture looked like. How many of you can just type it in the chat, how many of you has experienced some separation anxiety, either with your dog or your future leader dog? I'll give you a second to maybe get it typed up into the chat. Like I said, my experience with my own personal dog, Kelsey Marsh, says yes. Kelsey, was it with your future leader dog or your pet dog? Ooh, lots of people are saying yes. Yes, with CC dog. Okay, that makes a little bit of sense. Isolation distress. Look at Cheyenne using, I know that Cheyenne is one of the raisers in the East Lansing group. So I know her a little bit, and I know that she's very dog savvy. So that isolation distress, I like your use of those words. Yep, my personal dog. Lots of people are saying, oh yes, during the pandemic. So that is where a lot of this comes from, is that we are experiencing now a time when we're very rarely separated from our dogs, especially in 2020, the beginning of 2021 here. We've had very little opportunities to be separated, not like we have in the past. So I want you to think about this. This is a pandemic, has been something that people have been fairly concerned about, and veterinary behaviorists have seen this, is that dogs are now having, like I said, less opportunity to experience the separation. When it comes to separation, I would say about 20% of what behaviorists see as dogs and problems in dogs that occur, about 20% of that is separation anxiety. It is something that has been ongoing for a very long time, that behaviorists have known about this and have been coming up with different strategies. And as you know, I want everybody to kind of understand this piece of it. And I know that just like science and other science-related things, as that happens, as we know more, you get better at what you're doing. And there are things that have changed significantly in not only dog training, but in separation training as well. There were lots of things that people used to do and strategies that people used to use to help us with separation that have now changed their tone a little bit. Now things are a little bit different, and we're doing things a little bit different way because we found that scientifically, some of the things we were doing before didn't have quite the same effect as some of the newer things that we've discovered as far as training and as far as management of separation anxiety. So what is our puppy manual? We like to kind of talk about what does our puppy manual and what does Leader Dog talk about separation anxiety? And we've called it, there's some over attachment here is what it's listed as in your puppy raiser manual on page 78. And it talks about what we need from our guides. And this dog has to go from the host family, and the host family and their litter, and then they're placed with a puppy raiser. Then they leave the puppy raiser and they go on to the leader dog staff that cares for them till they're assigned to an instructor. They get some attachment to that instructor. Then they're given to a client, where then again, more attachment happens to the client. And then all of a sudden, that's a lot of people in the line of where our dogs get their attachment to people from. And our dogs need to be able to do this. You need to be able to hand the leash over to someone else without your dog doing any of these problem behaviors. Problem behaviors in separating from you would be crying, barking, pulling towards where the handler exited, maybe jumping on the strangers, being anxious or restless, and jumping upon the handler upon return. So when we were doing our InfoTraining assessment, and we still follow those same guidelines, even though we're not requiring the InfoTraining assessment piece, we're still using those same guidelines. And so we want our puppy to be able to be calm. Maybe they look around for that other handler, but they're perfectly happy being separated from an individual person. And that's what's really key to this, because could a puppy go on, let's just kind of show of hands here kind of thing. Could your puppy go on to become a guide if they had some severe separation anxiety and distress? I don't think that would work out. And we talk often about with puppy raising that your puppy should be able to go willingly with another person. They have to have this skill in order to, again, go on to the kennel, go on to be safely crated, to go on to work with an instructor, because we don't take them home. They're here in our on our campus, and so they're not going physically home with a person right yet. And with our puppies, that's why one of the myths of puppy raising to me, and one of the biggest myths, is that my puppy gets to be with me all the time. I get to have my puppy with me 24/7 if I want. But is that really the best thing for the puppy, to be with you 24 hours a day? And the answer to that is no. Even our guides, when they're with their clients, even our leader dogs, have some separation from those people. So whether they live in a multiple person or dog household, as some of our leader dogs do, but still there's some times where it's not appropriate to take a leader dog, where they have maybe a human guide that guides them for that day, or they go somewhere where it's really not in the best interest of their leader dog to go with them, and they stay home. So we always say that there should be some level of alone time that our future leader dog puppies should be able to handle. But what actually is separation anxiety, and what are some of the differences between separation anxiety and isolation distress? What looks like separation anxiety to you, possibly, with a baby 7-week-old puppy that maybe has never been away from their litter mates, never been away from having lots of snuggly things to curl up in and go to sleep with, is much different than a dog who has this extreme emotional reaction to their person leaving. So that's a little bit different. And that's why I wanted to, like I said, point out some differences and show you how you can be supportive of your dog if you believe you're going down that path. Oops. So the definition, I would say, between the two, a dog suffering some separation anxiety, and that's true anxiety, experiences some extreme distress when separated from one key individual. That's really makes this distinction between the two. So I have my 7-week-old puppy, and I put them in their crate and I leave, but my husband comes in and takes the puppy out. My puppy's perfectly happy because that they are comfortable with being with whoever's around. They just want a person. So that would be a dog suffering from isolation distress. And that's a dog that simply cannot be left without the presence of someone, and generally any person will do. And that comes from a certified separation anxiety trainer named Melina DiMartini. And she's kind of the leading little bit of an authority on separation distress and separation from and how what a separation kind of training plan looks like. This is what this person actually does for a living, because like I said, 20% of dogs that come to a behaviorist have separation anxiety. Those behaviors that you might see with a dog with extreme separation anxiety, those behaviors might include some excessive howling, and not just barking and escalating that, but barking, howling, and vocalization that doesn't subside in some way. So subside in some way. So you're really looking at, your puppy may bark for 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes inside the crate, but it starts to wane, and you can tell that it's starting to calm down and that they're starting to soothe themselves, and then maybe they go to sleep. A dog with some separation anxiety, that excessive howling, and howling is very, unless you have a hound, of course, is kind of that really distressed sound. And it doesn't let up typically. It will continue. It might escalate to a certain point and then continue at that point as you continue on. A dog with separation anxiety, that separation anxiety and these destructive behaviors. So when you leave, and those of you, we've had a lot of discussions on our Facebook page that I've seen, that what happens is the dogs with some, we're now talking about, can I leave my future leader dog out of the crate? Well, a dog with separation anxiety is likely to exhibit some destructive behaviors, like chewing things up. And there's tons. I actually looked on the internet looking for pictures of dogs with separation anxiety and some anxiety images to be able to show you. And I don't know if, like I said, when I said earlier, I said, when you know better, you do better. And you see memes of dogs, or you see people posting videos, and they're funny, right? Of a dog getting out of a crate. And when I see that video, I just cringe, because I go, oh, the anxiety in that dog, it's really starting to come out of how it's trying to actually get out of that crate. It's trying to get to its person. That anxiety is built up so far that it's becoming destructive. And so when I see those videos, like I said, I have to hide them from my news feed, because it hurts my heart a little bit watching it and seeing that. But those would be the things of separation anxiety that we're talking about. Also, another thing would be some inappropriate urination and defecation. Some of you with baby puppies might be looking at this and going, well, my puppy pees in the crate at night, maybe he has separation anxiety. Again, if your dog is old enough to hold it, and you've been doing very well at housebreaking, and your dog is so far well housebroken and doesn't typically have accidents in your house, and then starts relieving in the crate when you leave, that's a little bit different than a puppy who still can't hold it, and you're still working out those kinks to that. So I want you to be clear about those differences as to what is normal and what is abnormal. So a lot of times we might just perceive that our dog is mad or sad or upset that we're leaving. People will always say, my dog is so mad because I left. That's really not what's happening. They don't have that kind of emotion in terms of that, but that is a sign of some anxiety. So rather than anger, and they're being spiteful, or they're trying to get back at you for leaving them, that's not really the case. So it's really important to know what's normal for your dog, and to be communicating that normal behavior. Is this normal? How old is my puppy? Probably one of the first things that somebody's going to ask you when you say, I think my dog has some separation anxiety. They're going to ask you some questions. So, and I'll get into that in just a minute. So what are the causes of separation anxiety, right? We all want to know, how do we prevent this, and what are the causes? Why are dogs experiencing separation anxiety? the first thing I want you to know, I actually put it in all caps at the end of this slide, but it's really important to know that separation anxiety and true separation anxiety is not your fault. There's nothing that you can do during your puppy raising to say that, oh, I coddled the puppy, I held it too much, I pet them too much, I'm home too much. Those are not causes of separation anxiety. So there are lots of reasons that we can speculate, we can guess, is that but it's really hard to say because it happens in all breeds. It doesn't just happen in girls, although as people, we tend to go, well, I had a female dog. I had a female border collie, because I did. I had a female border collie for years and years. And all border collies have separation anxiety, and I'm only going to raise boy future leader dogs. That would be the what I would kind of think about that. Not necessarily true. Happens in all breeds, happens in all sexes, and all sizes of dogs. So not just little tiny dogs that experience a lot of separation. This would be Labs, Goldens, Great Danes, St. Bernards. All those kind of dogs can experience separation anxiety. And it happens in well-bred dogs, sound dogs, as well as shelter pets. And this is another one of those key things that we have as a perception as a person. So we go, oh, if I get a dog from a shelter, it will have separation anxiety because they were abandoned at a shelter. That's not necessarily true at all either, although they do have some evidence of some maybe trauma or something that happened to a shelter pet. And maybe my personal theory, don't bet the farm on this, but my personal theory is that dogs are surrendered to shelters because people don't know how to deal with this separation anxiety. They don't know how to manage it, and they don't know how to work on training those behaviors. So rather than take this dog and have this dog destroy their home, they relinquish them to a shelter. So it might be more prevalent in shelter pets because that's the reason that people would give them up. Does that make sense? And I hope that it does. But that's my personal theory, is you might see a little bit more of it in shelter pets, but probably because people are unable to cope with a dog that has severe separation anxiety. Even the best owners, the best puppy raisers, the best trainers, doesn't matter. You can still have a dog with separation anxiety. So, like I said before, trauma could be one of the causes, and genetics. But none of those are very, very clear causes. So when you think about it, you kind of think, all right, well, that's a whole bunch of different things, right? That I have no idea what any of this could mean. So how are we going to then prevent separation anxiety? And isn't that the goal, right? We get a puppy at 7 weeks and we want to do the perfect job. We want to raise the perfect puppy, and we want to get them all the way up into being a guide dog for someone who's blind or visually impaired. So how do we prevent our dog from getting separation anxiety? Seems pretty simple, right? Not so much. We don't know, although we have some ideas of what the causes might be. Like I said, trauma, genetics, some of those things may be causes, but we don't really know. So how do you prevent something you don't know what the cause of it is? Well, that's where separation anxiety is a bit tough to manage and handle. And like I said in the beginning of this presentation, this is a brief overview because we could talk about this all day. We could talk about trauma. We could talk about the genetic components. We could talk about all these different things. But really, when it comes to prevention, like, you can prevent your dog getting its tail caught in the door by putting them into an around position. All right. We know that that might happen. We know that that's something that may happen to our dog. We can prevent it by just simply doing an around. Great. Sounds good. Separation anxiety just doesn't work that way. It's just we don't really know enough to have preventative measures. But what can we do to just have good separation strategies for all puppies? So these are things that you're going to do: future leader dog, pet dog, mom's dog, dad's dog you got from a shelter, anywhere. These are some good separation anxiety and isolation distress exercises that can help relieve some of those emotional responses if that's what's happening in your dog. And some, if your dog isn't experiencing any separation anxiety, these exercises will all go really easily. You'll flow through them, and you'll really get a good feel that this is going to be an easier thing to go through. If your dog does have separation anxiety, it might take you longer to work through these things. These just some strategies are going to be a little bit more difficult. They might be time consuming. You might have to spend more time on them. So just good things to know and good things to think about. The first one is that any dog with separation anxiety, and any puppy, like I said, these strategies are good for all puppies, that you're going to follow small gradual steps towards home alone. So if you suspect that your dog has some anxious tendencies of separation anxiety, or even your baby puppy that is brand new to you, that you want to make small gradual steps. Does that mean that you're going to take your puppy who has never been away from its litter mates and the people that it's been associated with, and all of a sudden you're going to take that puppy and put it in a crate and leave the house for 12 hours a day? I don't think that that's a very good strategy for maybe preventing some of this. So you want to say, I'm going to take some small gradual steps. One of the things that I will do is I'm going to play some crate games, and that's actually number 2, create a happy, safe space with the crate. I'm going to show you a little crate video of just desensitizing your dog to the crate, getting the crate to be a fun and great place. If you want a resource on that, I actually bought Susan Garrett's crate games, and I do that quite a bit with my puppies just to get them so that crate, they have the choice to go inside the crate, and that's a big key. I leave them with that choice to be able to go into the crate and let them come out, and those are our training sessions. It's all about reinforcing the choice to go in the crate and the choice to stay in the crate. And so I'm really creating this happy, good place that great things happen in the crate, along with feeding inside the crate can do that. Some food toys inside the crate, although with true separation anxiety, here's an answer somebody can give me. If your dog really has, and we've talked about this in multiple other, give me some stress behaviors you might see in the crate if you think your dog might be experiencing some separation anxiety. We've done many virtual trainings on stress signals in our dogs, and what might be one of them? Or 2 or 3. There's lots of them, actually. Panting, clawing, vocalization, yep. Yawning, great things, yep. Chewing at the wires of the metal crate, that might happen. That's a very frustration behavior, I would say. That's one where they're very frustrated with having to be in the crate. I would see that probably in some baby puppies because they chew on lots of things when they get very panting, howling, ears down, cowering, all great things, but also they might not take food. So you might put a Kong inside the crate, a food toy, which is great if your dog loves food toys and you know you can redirect them by using a food toy. But if they really are anxious and they really are experiencing a lot of stress, they might not use that food toy. And then the presence of that Kong coming in might signal that you're going to leave. And so we want to be careful about the use of food toys when we go somewhere. The other thing that I highly recommend that you guys do, we have the technology. The technology is available to actually put a camera on your crate. And the reason I say do that is because most of the time you go, man, I just don't want to leave. My puppy's howling or they're barking or I'm not sure what's going on when I leave, and I better hurry up and come back. And I did say follow small gradual steps. But if you leave, you can't see what your puppy's doing. So you can't analyze what the picture looks like when you don't have any information, right? So we want to be able to see. Put a camera on your puppy. I'm going to guess the majority, and I've only really seen true separation anxiety in 1 or 2 dogs throughout my time here at Leader Dog, which is about 8 years with a Razor, where I've had to work on a significant amount of separation from a handler. That put a camera on it, see what actually happens. Does that person, yeah, Mana says this, we do this and cameras are quite affordable. They are. I think you can pick one up for like $20. I mean, they're not great cameras. They're not going to be wonderful and awesome, but you're right. What she said was it's comforting to know your puppy's okay. So that leads us to taking that weight off our shoulders. That relieves some of our anxiety and some of our distress at leaving our puppies, is invest in that. And Cheyenne says 100% get a camera. Yep, it really is. You really can see what's going on. You really can see what this strategy might look like or what you might need to do. The fourth thing that I have is, and this is where, when I was talking earlier about we've come a really long way. And it used to be that our dogs were really used to our our departure cues. And what is a departure cue? A departure cue is something that happens prior to you leaving. So maybe you pick up your keys, maybe you put on your shoes, maybe you put on your coat. And it used to be that we would say that you would go, okay, put on your coat and then cook dinner and then take your dog and then go outside or leave. Or maybe pick up your keys and put them down and do some of that. You certainly can engage in some of those behaviors as part of your desensitization. But we're going to make our departure from that dog, if we make it a happy thing, if we make departing a good thing where they know that we come back, and I want to say that we're a little bit transparent about our leaving our puppy, where that's what's happening, we're leaving, and we're not hiding those pre-departure cues, that what's going to happen is if they realize that departing is not a bad thing, those pre-departure cues go away. So those aren't big deals either. So let's say all right, well, I'm going to try not to pick up my keys or I'm going to keep my keys in my purse so I can pick up my purse. Your dog's going to know that picking up the purse is the pre-departure cue. There's always something. People are so good at this. All right. We're very, very predictable. We're very predictable people walking towards that. It might be that, okay, I'm going to leave the house. So maybe you only use one door. So every time you make a step towards that door, your dog might think that you're leaving. But like I said, if we make that whole departure and leaving home and being at home and having the crate and being a happy place, that this pre-departure cues won't signal distress to your dog. And also, don't sneak out. We think that a little bit. And with our baby puppies, I'll give you with our tiny babies, sometimes you do that tiptoe out of the room so you don't wake them up. That's not this. I don't want you sneaking out when your dog's in a crate. That's not necessarily the way that we want to cope or manage our separation anxiety. So moving on, how do I know if my puppy has separation anxiety? So here's the thing. So what I do want you to do is I want you to track your puppy's behaviors by keeping a journal. Melissa did a wonderful virtual training session on journaling. So you want to journal what those behaviors are, include days, times, what happened before this, what happened after this, all of those good things. We can look at that journal and then know how to help you. And then recognizing, we had another one, like I said, recognizing those signs of stress. So is your dog yawning? Are they panting? Are they salivating a lot, drooling, those things? If that's what's happening, write that down. And again, there's a virtual training session on recognizing some of those signs. So you can watch those too and go, okay, I'm going to journal this. And now I know what stress signs to watch for so I can write them down. Do absolutely contact your puppy counselor and your puppy coordinator and have that journal to say, this is what has been happening. And we want to help you. And then the thing we want you to do is we don't want you to wait till you can't take it anymore, till things are destroyed or there's been an injury because of some of these behaviors. Don't wait. Tell your counselor right away, next time you go to a puppy outing, I want you to tell them I'm seriously having issues with leaving my puppy and I don't know what to do, because that's what we're here for. We're here to make this experience better for you and to help you get through these kinks of puppy raising. Also, don't assume that your puppy has separation anxiety without a diagnosis from puppy development or some of our vet team. And the reason I want you to have a diagnosis is because, just like I said in the beginning, there's a difference between normal baby puppy behaviors and true separation anxiety. I hear this a lot with people with pets where they will say, my dog has separation anxiety. Well, is it just that you haven't worked on crating? Maybe they have, well, he won't go in a crate because he has separation anxiety. That's not necessarily true. Some dogs with separation anxiety can be managed in a crate. Some can, some can't. We don't necessarily use a lot of crating in true separation anxiety training plans, but for sure, you want to make sure that everything that you have journaled and told puppy development, we are going to look at that and we're going to match that up with, okay, I think we're dealing with some separation anxiety, and that would be a different plan than we would for something mild. So we want to make sure that you are and be brutally honest with us. We love honesty. We love it when people tell us that we can troubleshoot your problems and we can get you the help that you need. I don't want you living with a dog. I had a friend of mine, little anecdotal evidence. A friend of mine lived with her Malinois for 14 years, where every time she left the dog, she had to take it somewhere to be babysat, whether it was with her mom or she stayed home. But there were so many opportunities that she missed out on because her dog had some severe separation anxiety and distress, more so than what any of us will probably ever experience in our lifetime. So don't wait until that, and don't assume that every time your puppy cries or shows you some discomfort that they have separation anxiety. That's very important to make that distinction. All right. So you want to talk to us about making a plan of action. And the thing about separation anxiety, it really is very complex and it really is individualistic. So every individual dog may experience this differently. Some might be very mild, where we see some panting, lip licking, maybe some drooling in their crates or being separated from a person. And this doesn't necessarily mean in a crate. I'm not talking about separation anxiety being something that is only associated with crate training. That's not necessarily true either. If your dog has a lot of true separation anxiety, you may not be able to leave the room. And of course, again, different with a baby puppy. I know I have a 9-week-old puppy as a personal pet, and no, I don't go to the bathroom alone. He comes in there with me. But do I think that he has separation anxiety? No, he's perfectly happy to be. If he's sleeping, he might not wake up to go to the bathroom with me, but he's awake. He wants to go in there and he wants to see what's going on. And he wants to be engaged in what's happening with the toilet. He's really interested in flushing. So he thinks that's a lot of fun. That's different than not being, that Velcro dog and never leaving your side. So I wanted to show you guys a little video. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Hopefully I've done sharing that. Let's see if I can get to. Oops. Let me see if I can get my screen share up here for you. Hang on. One of my coordinators, can you tell me if you can see my screen right now?
Yeah, I can see it.
Is it a YouTube video?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is a puppy and a little crate game that you can play to, like I said, one of the things we want to do is make this crate a very good and happy place for you. So I really liked this one. Of course, you're going to not click, you're going to say the word yes. But this is a good little video about shaping them to go into the crate and to stay and make that choice of, again, staying in the crate. The choice is to stay in the crate, and that's what they're being reinforced for. So this is kind of just a good video. I have another crating training session on the virtual trainings about crates. This one kind of goes in. I do this with all of my puppies. I love crate games. I love to have dogs that will travel, that will stay in a crate and be comfortable and confident in one. But again, you could do all the crate games in the world. And is that going to prevent separation anxiety? Maybe, maybe not. We don't really know.
We are going to work on Zelda just turned 3 months old, and I wanted to make sure that she was old enough to have the stamina, the mental stamina to do it. You can't ask an 8-week-old puppy that can't quite concentrate for more than 30 seconds to create games because it takes a while to do that initial work. So I have several types of high value treats, and you know I like to use many different high and low value treats, but because this is a crate game and we want them to be very excited about this, I've got 3 high value. I've got some chicken, some hot dog, and some leftover steak. The first thing is that the dog has to be willing to get into the crate. And so I'm going to click this for her.
And remember, you're going to say yes instead of the click.
In advance, so I'm going to give it a click. More each time. Excellent job. Why isn't 2 paws working this time? 4. Good girl. I'm going to give her several inside there so she knows that's exactly what I want. Crate games is where we want our dogs to learn a behavior, which is to get in the back of the crate and sit as we approach to open the crate door, and that they don't come out of the crate until we ask them to. So there's a series of steps that we go through to do this. Zelda has not played any of these games, so this what you see is what you get. Okay, so we've got plenty of good treats. It doesn't matter if you want high value, but varying if you can. What we're going to do is first put our pup in the crate. I don't use clicker at this point. She's never been closed in this crate. If your dog is panicking or having any problems, then you need to spend more time just developing a good behavior and familiarization with the crate. Okay? So she's doing fine. She's not panicking. She's kind of wondering what we're doing. But what we're going to do is we're going to condition her now to sit when the door is open. You don't ask for anything. You don't say anything. What you're going to do is you're just going to move the crate door handle so she hears that. And when she hears that, you want to immediately open the crate door, put your hand up in the back, and help her get into a sit. First, going to get her going in. Just going to close the crate door. Wait for just a second. I've got my high value cookie in my right hand. I'm going to open the door with my left. Oh, I'm a good girl. Okay, that's fine. I do want her further in the back, so let's see if I can get her. Excellent job. Yeah. Perfect. She's going to lay down, which would be nice. I've gotten her back up. Opportunity knocks. Trying to get her so she knows other than sit.
All right. So that is quite a bit of this crate game. So you can just kind of see how it works. It gives you a good indication of how to get your dog acclimated to that crate and to going inside. So now is the time of the meeting where we have lots of questions. I am happy to answer your questions for you. They can be any kind of question. Feel free to ask me about separation anxiety. That's our topic for today. So if you're concerned at all about separation and what might be normal, this would be the time to ask. Or that video. I actually like that game. I do quite a bit of that kind of play. And to see how she shaped the puppy getting into the crate. By every time it went towards the crate, she was marking and reinforcing that. So going inside the crate becomes the choice of the dog. And I really can appreciate that video very much. So I'm not seeing a whole lot of things pop up in the chat. So if you've got things that you're wondering, feel free. Also, you can raise your hand for sure. I'm going to give it a second because we always have a second or two where things pop up in our chat box. Lynn Schwarn, go ahead and ask your question, Lynn. So you can go ahead and unmute. So if you're on mute, go ahead and unmute Lynn and ask your question.
Can you hear me now?
I can. Thank you.
Okay, the last couple times I've let Crystal out of the crate. She's been free, and I've been outside in the back of my condo doing some work. I've come in and I find papers ripped up. The last time was a library book
Oh, no.
chewed on. So at any rate, is this separation anxiety?
I would say that she's definitely experiencing a response to you being gone. And again, if you find that keeping her crated helps you with that, it helps to keep her, maybe she lays down in the crate and is able to settle in the crate, that's what you would be looking for. So if I were to see my dog doing that, I would first look at, okay, well, what are the situations? Did I leave a book out? Did she have other choices of things that she could be chewing on at that time? Did she go in my bedroom and find something that was underneath my bed and pick that to chew up? That might be something a little bit different. But what I want you to do, Lynn, is I want you to see if that same thing happens or what kind of distress she shows when she is crated.
Well, then I would need a camera at that point. Is that correct?
Right. Yep. So you would want to think about, all right, well, what is she doing in the crate? Well, you could probably, what is she doing in the crate when you come back in from being outside? Is she panting? Is she exhibiting some of these other signs of distress? Or is the crate just kind of that place for her where she can be in there, she can be safely tethered away from things that might be fun to chew up? So I don't know if I would give a big diagnosis to just hearing one small piece of it. We would need to journal this and have a little bit more information. Does that make sense?
Yeah, lately it's been like paper things that she's been chewing. And I didn't think I was gone that long, so that's why I was letting her free.
Right.
Lately she's been a little more reluctant to go in her crate when I ask her to. She's just kind of.
And so if you were to play that little game, Lynn, where you reinforce her choice of going into the crate and then staying in there. So if she goes into the crate and you put that treat way into the back and she chooses to stay in there, even though the door's open, and you're saying yes and giving a treat for that behavior, I bet that will get a little bit better.
Okay, great. That's a good idea. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. And so Shelly is asking, how do you recommend handling returning to a dog that's overly excited from you arriving? So again, same kinds of activities that we would do for impulse control. So when the dog is overly excited to see us, it would be very much that you are, number one, doing some ignoring. So that includes, but is not limited to, no eye contact, no petting, no touching, so that your return and departure is very non-exciting and very neutral. And you can practice this by just being gone in small increments and doing it that way. So I would recommend then doing smaller pieces, Shelley, until your dog gets desensitized to you coming and going. That it happens frequently and it happens in very short intervals, and that you might come back really, really quickly. So I want you to do some sessions where you're working in smaller increments to see if that lessens that excitement of you coming home. Laura asks, what's the maximum time we can leave our puppy at home in the crate? I know the rule of thumb, but what's the safe recommended max? Well, it really depends on your personal dog. I know that my older dogs have been in their crates. Sometimes they've been in their crates up to 10 hours if I've had to be gone for whatever reason. But I also know that they can hold it. They've got excellent bladder control. I always keep water in my crates. I'm one of those weird people that I always keep a water dish in my crate for them, so I know they can have water. I know it's very safe for them. We've played crate games since the minute they came into my house, and they're very acclimated to I will come home and they'll be laying on their backs with their paws up. They're so comfortable in their crates. That's their safe place. That's a place they enjoy being. So I think it really depends on your personal dog and what you can. I would say you are hitting that 10-hour mark. You're really, getting a lot of hours there. And once your puppy becomes older, you're going to gauge that a lot better. Do we have times in which we need to leave our puppies a little bit longer than we would like? Absolutely. So don't beat yourself up about a time where you have to be gone for 12 hours. Make sure that you're giving them a good walk before you leave. Make sure that upon your arrival again home, that they're getting that same type of exercise and stimulation. Maybe they have a food toy in there. But don't beat yourself up if you have to be separated from your dog for a length of time that maybe is uncomfortable for you. And again, that's where cameras work out so great, right? You're going to know what happens when your dog is gone from you and what you can do to make that different. Sue has a question. Go ahead, Sue.
Got to get myself off. Laura, this may be off topic, and if it is, feel free to tell me so.
Sure.
One of the things, thank you for giving us the true definition with social isolation. And I don't think that's the problem that Neve is having, thankfully. But what we do find, the two places she gets really anxious is if she's crated in the car or crated at home. She can see me, but I'm not attainable, right? So if she's crated in the car and I'm outside the car speaking with somebody because we're getting ready to go away, or if she's crated in the house and she knows I've gone out into the backyard, even if she can't necessarily see me in the backyard, but she knows I'm close by. Then we get all the same signals you're talking about hyper anxiety and hyper distress, but it's very difficult to I'm not sure what tricks I can use to try and relax her that it's okay, we're coming back.
So again, you're going to be doing much smaller increments of this and make those increments successful. So what we tend to do as people is that we go, okay, well, she should be able to last for a long time because she stays in her crate at night. So she should be able to last this 8-hour night and I shouldn't have any problems. I put her in her crate. Again, practice that crate game where they're going in and this is a good experience. And then you're going to start practicing. You go in, this is a good experience. We've done that. Now we're going to step out of the room and step back in. And then she's out and can go, assuming that you step out and her behavior remains calm. And she remains calm, and you come right back and let her out. And you're going to work in that tiny of an increment.
Okay.
Working up to longer and longer periods. The key is that you have to have some success in there.
Yeah.
So when you go, okay, we're going to practice this, and I'm going to go outside and weed my garden. That's too long. Even though it might be 10 minutes or 15 minutes, that's still too long.
That's still a challenge in the car. It's like you can't. Even if you step away from the car, she goes into her crate really willingly and is excited about that, she's fine when you close down the back door. If you don't immediately get into the car, then it's the whimper whine.
Yeah, and so then I would practice that same thing in the car. Where she's doing the crate games in the car. Then we take a very small out of sight Maybe you
Mhm.
go around, maybe you go around to the driver's or the passenger side, because that's not
Mhm.
normally what you would do. You normally would go around to the driver's side,
Right.
and maybe you walk back into the garage and walk right back out.
Okay.
So you're going to be doing
It's
this,
small.
yeah, very small, and as a training rather than as we're going somewhere right now.
Okay.
Not the time to practice things when you're
Yeah.
in a hurry or you've got to go to work today.
Right.
Me, I've got my puppy. He comes to work with me, but some of his behaviors in the car have been tough.
Yeah.
So I've been working all week doing these little games and these little tiny increments.
Yeah.
And we had a very successful crate ride today, but I've been working on crating this whole week.
Okay.
Building up to this, I know I have to go to work on Thursday, and I know it's an hour drive, and
Right.
I know that right now gets irritated with me in the crate a little bit and he's going through a fear period right now. It's very normal. Everything he's experiencing right now is very normal.
Yeah.
So, and I'm aware of that, but I want to make this easier for him. How do I make it easier for him? I do training sessions that are short, that he understands, that are successful. We've had 3 crate sessions Tuesday, because I went to work on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Tuesday and Monday when I came home, I did one. Tuesday I did one, and Wednesday I did one.
Mhm.
And I had success in the crate today, Thursday. So I'm
Right.
calling that a successful ride
Yeah.
because I did these tiny small increments prior to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's what I would do. Mary Hedda said, could she have someone else giving treats, or should she just be the one giving treats? I'm wondering if yeah. And does it happen with each person in the house? Is it just you?
Just me. And that's been the challenge, because it's hard to reward her for quiet behavior when you're not, we have done, and I take your point, and I think I will do more of that sort of, it's happy to be in the crate, you're happy to be there. Now we just work a little bit more on how far I can get away and reward for quietness and composure.
Yep.
If I am able to step away a couple steps and come back, and then another couple steps and come back, and just keep rewarding for that. But that has been the challenge, because if she is quiet, you're removed, so you can't get her anything.
Right.
That's what good job, because I'm not there.
And that's where you come back. So you can do it where you take a step away, come back and treat. 2 steps away, come back and treat. 3 steps away, come back and treat. 4 steps, and so on and so forth. And pretty soon it's going to be like, geez, this lady just yo-yos back and forth to me.
It'll be like protocol in the car.
Yes, exactly. And so that's just kind of what you're going to be doing. Mona says,
Thank
I
you.
love through a dog's ear. Yep, absolutely. I do too. I play it for my puppies in the crate. And I have the little music player for my dog. I put it on top of the crate, and definitely I love that as helping to alleviate some of it. I think some of it too, especially you guys with baby puppies, it really is being prepared. Am I prepared for what's about to happen with this puppy and bringing a puppy home and making them comfortable in the crate? I will use through a dog's ear. I will make sure that it's a snugly safe place. I will make sure that I've done some crate desensitization. I have a food bowl. I have a water bowl. My dog's needs are met before I'm putting them in, all of those things. And those are all separate. Crate and separation anxiety don't necessarily, like I said, happen the same time or happen for just the crate. It can be like what Lynn was saying. She left her dog out and chewed up a piece of paper. I would say there's a little anxiety happening there with that dog. Not a lot. It might be just very minimal. But definitely this dog is having some anxiety of being left out crated. Or it also could mean that the dog thought chewing up paper was fun, which some dogs are like that. But, real destruction where she got up onto a countertop and grabbed something and took it and chewed it up, or found that library book, I would say there is a little bit happening there. And that would be a cue for Lynn to start discussing Crystal's behaviors with her puppy counselor and her puppy coordinator to make sure they don't escalate further. And again, talk to us so that the behaviors, if we don't want them to continue to escalate. Dogs who practice behaviors get really good at them. So we want to get this under control so that we can give you a plan so that when the dog comes back, we've had a plan in place for it. Is it a reason for career change, do you guys think? What would you say? Dogs that have separation distress, you know, that is a reason that we would look differently at them and maybe think that guide work might not be for them. So separation is kind of a serious thing we want to know about so that we can help you develop a plan so that we can alleviate as much as we can. We always want to help you come up with a plan. That is our biggest point as puppy development and as a team, is that we always want to come up with a plan that's good for you and the dog. So that's always where our mind is. Even if your dog has some separation tendencies, separation anxiety, or has some isolation distress, we want you to work on it and we want to give you a plan, because one of the things, this dog, even if they're not going to be a guide dog, they still have to be a pet for someone. And it's good to get these things at least with a plan. Okay. So thank you guys so much for coming. I've had a good time talking to you about this. And I know VJ's got a really great session coming up on next Tuesday that she's already got the invite out